This is Dr.RED Panda.
Imagine being locked in a room with no air for hours, or having scientists test what happens when your senses are completely cut off. And yes, people actually volunteered for this. Or picture being part of an experiment where your reactions, fears, even your very survival are the data. Crazy, right? In this video, you'll see experiments so bizarre, you'll wonder what humans were thinking. Oh, and by the way, I'm Dr. Red Panda, your guide through the strangest corners of science and history. The strangest tests you won't believe. Imagine being locked in a room with almost no air, struggling for every breath, or having all your senses completely cut off. No sight, no sound, no touch. It sounds like something out of a horror story, yet humans actually volunteered for experiments like this. History is full of tests that pushed people to their physical and mental limits, and some of them are almost impossible to believe. During World War II, psychologists conducted experiments to see how fear, isolation, and sleep deprivation affected decision-making. Volunteers were placed in stressful situations, sometimes with confusing instructions or sudden shocks, all while their reactions were meticulously recorded. Some froze, some panicked, and some surprised researchers with unexpected resilience. These experiments may seem shocking today, but they revealed fundamental truths about human behavior under pressure. Imagine being in a room where every choice you make is being observed. How would you respond? Going back to the 19th century, scientists were obsessed with testing the limits of human breathing. Volunteers were placed in airtight chambers or environments with drastically reduced oxygen. Many experienced hallucinations, dizziness, and intense anxiety. These experiments helped scientists understand how the brain and body respond to extreme stress. Yet, it's striking to think that people actually agreed to participate, fully aware of the risks. Could you step into a room where every inhale could feel like your last? Another series of experiments focused on extreme sensory deprivation. Participants were isolated in total darkness and silence for hours, sometimes longer. Without external input, the mind began to invent its own realities. Hallucinations, distorted time perception, and intense psychological stress emerged quickly. These early studies laid the foundation for modern research on perception, cognition, and mental resilience. Sitting in silence might sound peaceful, but these experiments show just how unpredictable and creative the human mind can become under extreme conditions. So, after hearing about these strange experiments, here's the question. Could you survive an hour in total darkness, with no sound or touch? Or would your mind start creating its own reality? When science went too far. Sometimes science doesn't just test limits, it crosses them. In the early 20th century, researchers became obsessed with understanding human behavior under extreme conditions. The goal was often noble: to explore human endurance, perception, and decision-making under stress. Yet, the methods they used often went far beyond what most people would consider reasonable. These experiments weren't designed for cruelty alone, but for the volunteers involved. The experience was often terrifying, disorienting, and unforgettable. One area that fascinated scientists was sensory overload. While sensory deprivation isolates the mind, overload does the opposite. It bombards the brain with constant, unpredictable stimuli. Volunteers were exposed to flashing lights, loud and irregular sounds, and sometimes even chaotic visual patterns all at once. The intention was to study how the human brain processes multiple streams of information simultaneously. Participants reported confusion, disorientation, and panic. Some even experienced temporary hallucinations or emotional breakdowns. From a modern perspective, it seems extreme, but these experiments revealed how easily the human nervous system can be overwhelmed, and how our attention and perception adapt under stress. Imagine trying to focus on a single task while your senses are being assaulted from every direction. Most of us would fail within minutes, but some volunteers displayed remarkable resilience. Another striking example comes from extreme confinement and social isolation. Researchers placed participants in tiny, enclosed spaces with minimal light, sound, or contact with others. Some experiments lasted hours, others days. Volunteers were asked to complete tasks or simply remain still while researchers monitored their physiological and psychological responses. Without social interaction or sensory input, people began to experience hallucinations, distortions in time perception, and intense emotional fluctuations. They kept detailed journals, documenting bizarre dreams, sudden fears, and the creeping sense of unreality. These tests weren't just about endurance. They provided critical insights into the importance of social connection, mental stimulation, and how the brain constructs reality. Even short-term isolation can profoundly change perception, cognition, and mood, which later informed research in psychology, space travel, and even long-term submarine or Arctic missions. Then there were physiological stress experiments, focusing on extreme temperature, pressure, and endurance. In the mid-20th century, scientists exposed volunteers to freezing cold or high heat, sometimes combining physical challenges with mental tasks. Researchers wanted to understand how environmental stress impacts decision-making, cognitive function, and survival. Volunteers reported intense physical discomfort, disorientation, and at times fear for their own safety. The insights gained were invaluable. They shaped modern safety protocols, training for military personnel, astronaut programs, and emergency medicine. Yet for those inside the experiment, it was a surreal and often grueling ordeal, forcing them to confront limits they had never imagined. Some experiments also explored mental and emotional thresholds. Psychologists tested how individuals respond to extreme monotony, contradictory instructions, or moral dilemmas under stress. Volunteers faced situations where every choice was monitored and evaluated, creating pressure that seemed small on the surface but became psychologically intense over time. The results highlighted the fragility of decision-making under repeated stress and the resilience of the human mind when coping mechanisms were activated. Surprisingly, some participants thrived, demonstrating creative problem-solving or unexpected adaptability, while others broke down under the simplest of pressures. What makes these experiments so compelling is not just the danger or discomfort, but the unexpected insights they provide into human nature. They reveal how finely balanced our cognitive and emotional systems are, and how quickly ordinary circumstances can become extraordinary when variables are pushed to extremes. At the same time, they remind us that the pursuit of knowledge can sometimes blur ethical lines and put ordinary people in extraordinary, and often stressful, situations. Even today, these historical experiments fascinate psychologists, neuroscientists, and the public alike. Which experiment would you survive? Now that we've seen some of the strangest and most extreme human experiments in history, it's time to ask the question: which of these would you survive? From sensory deprivation to overload, from extreme isolation to environmental stress, these experiments pushed real people to their mental and physical limits. And now you get to put yourself in their shoes, at least in imagination. Imagine sitting alone in a pitch-dark room for hours, with no sound and nothing to focus on. Your mind starts to create its own reality, hallucinations and all. Could you handle it, or would you give in to panic? Or picture being exposed to flashing lights, loud noises, and constant distractions while being asked to complete difficult tasks. Some volunteers thrived under the chaos, but others broke down. Where would you fall on that spectrum? Then there were experiments testing physical endurance. Freezing cold, scorching heat, high pressure, or lack of air. Survival wasn't just about physical strength. It was about mental toughness, focus, and adapting to extreme conditions. Could you keep your wits and make the right decisions when your body screams at you to stop? These experiments may seem shocking, but they also reveal something remarkable about the human mind: its resilience, creativity, and unpredictability. Every person reacts differently, which is why scientists were so fascinated. And now it's your turn to reflect. If you were offered a choice, which experiment would you actually attempt? Drop your answer in the comments below. Don't just say which one you think you could survive, explain why. Did you choose isolation because you think your mind is calm under stress? Or maybe you picked sensory overload, confident you could outsmart chaos? Your reasoning makes this fun and sparks debate, and who knows, you might even change someone else's mind. History's weirdest human experiments weren't just about danger. They were about curiosity, pushing limits, and understanding what it truly means to be human. By imagining yourself in these situations, we can learn a little more about ourselves, our fears, our strengths, and how we handle the unknown. So, leave your final decision in the comments. Don't just drop an option. Give us your most hardcore reasoning. Let's see whose logic stands the test, or if your insights can reveal a side of human nature we've never noticed before. I'm excited to see the debate unfold. And that's a wrap for this episode of the video. I'm Dr. Red Panda. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Until next time, take care.